What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Super Gamer Boys. I'm your host, Colonel and most handsome dad, Garrett Morlang, and here in the virtual studio with me is another very special guest. Boy, we've had a fun lineup so far. We've had a lot of cool people, but this guy right here, he's been with us a long time, and that is our very own Patreon producer and professional streamer, Kajoma01, aka Caleb Moss. That's right. Kajoma01 is your actual name, and your nickname is
correct.
Caleb. How are you doing, man?
Doing all right. Doing good.
Yeah, it's great to have you here on the show. It's been a little bit. I'm trying to think, because you've been on a main show before, correct?
I think twice, potentially.
Twice? Okay. Yeah.
Something like that.
It's just been a minute. It
has.
And I feel like you've been in like random streams too, right? Like when we used to like play games, I feel like you've joined us a couple times for some games or something maybe, but
I think more than likely.
Yeah. So it's good to have you back. It's been, I was thinking the other day, I was like, it's been such a fun run. I miss Adrian. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like I miss my buddy. I miss my co-host here. But this string of guesties lined up for me has been really cool because it's been both new people, like we had Carrie on the show she was one of the first ones, and then progressively getting into like some people that like we haven't either ever had on the show, but we've done stuff with them, or they've been on like book club, or they just haven't been on the show in years. Like I think next episode it's going to be Ray, aka Ray to Rat, aka Ray no Yuki. She has lots of different names on different platforms. But like, I'm trying to think, she was on our Little Nightmares book club, Little Nightmares 1 and 2, when we did those. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago. Like it's been so long. So yeah, looking forward to having her and a lot of other folks. So it's very, very cool this is. But well, you, as I mentioned in my introduction of you, you are a Patreon producer. We say your name each and every week, talk about you, make fun of you, do all sorts of things. You're also a professional streamer, apparently. That's what the email your manager sent over said. That's how to introduce you.
Yeah, something like that.
Do you want to talk about that at all? I like how often are you streaming nowadays? Because I think we were talking about that a little bit before the show.
Not as often as I think I should to acquire the title of professional streamer, more than likely. I think I have streamed potentially maybe like 3 or 4 times this year, something like that.
Okay. Hey, you know what? That's other than this podcast, it's more than me. It's more than me. I haven't streamed at all this year as far as like just playing games or anything. So
yeah. I'd like to stream more. So hopefully, potentially soon, I will be streaming on a more regular basis. We will see.
Nice. And people can find you. It's, what is it? Twitch.tv/Kajoma01.
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I had the gaming in there. That's your Instagram handle, right?
That one is specifically my Instagram because there's definitely not another Kajoma01 that is not me. That is not a public account.
So yeah, you can go follow him on Instagram too, Kajoma01 Gaming, and at least get updates when he does go live, I'm sure.
True.
You also have a Discord server. People are pretty busy in there, and I feel like that's where I see you streaming a lot more. So if you're interested in hanging out with Kajoma and playing some games, join his Discord because he's always playing over there, and they're always like a group of you guys in the voice chat playing together.
Indeed.
But very good. Well, thanks for joining me here tonight. Without further ado, I guess we can get into the show. Today, we're talking about Death Stranding 2's release date. Woo-woo! Next gen Xbox leaks, rumors, I don't know what you want to call it, and AI Aloy. But first, let's give a quick shout out to our Patreon producers, Kajoma01, Bumble Smash, and Carrie, and our Super Gamer sponsors, Julie Bates, Mama Mare, and David Matthews. If you want to be awesome just like those folks, head over to patreon.com/supergamerboys, where you can support us starting at just $1 a month. That's right, $1 each every month gets you episodes early and ad-free, such as this show, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive shows, such as Super Later Boys, Season 1 of Super Gamer Book Club, and I mean, all the rest of our content ad free as well. You may not get it early anymore, but it is ad free. So if you're ever sick and tired of me talking about our ad halfway through a show, just support us and find it all over there. And we'll talk more about our Patreon later on the show and some of those other supporting levels and perks. But right now, I want to give a huge shout out to Jack, Sriracha, Yate, and DJ Trooz for allowing us to use their music on the show. You can find them over on Apple Music and Spotify. Links will be in the show description. Tonight, we're listening to... let's see. It is my Jack, Sriracha, and Yate playlist. It's a good one. Classics. Love it. So yeah, go show them some love. Follow them on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get music. And with that, it's now time to check the mail. No Super Gamer Bot. Super Gamer Bot's been on vacation because when Adrian left, he took the power cable with him. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but can't fire up Super Gamer Bot. I realize I haven't addressed that at all. That's what happened with that.
Needs power. Yeah.
It's hard to turn something on without the power cable. So with that, I guess it's up to me to read this lengthy rant from Ranger. It's time to meditate and marinate with Ranger. Those are his words. Boys, with the cancellation of the Wonder Woman game, I have some perceptions that require simply what? Hang on. I don't always proofread this stuff ahead of time. Maybe I should. I have some perceptions that require simply put your hands in the pudding. Okay. Here we go. Wonder Woman has had over $100 million pumped into it. Consultants for the game have commented that what they saw and played was gorgeous, expansive, beautiful, and a showpiece epic. Now I can't help but wonder, no pun intended, I think it was intended. After all this time and money, why wouldn't they release something from the game to generate any kind of revenue? For example, why not, if this is an open world game, release a chunk of the map with, let's say, the first 5 missions of the game, plus a few side quests, and release at a lower price point, see what happens. It would be like AAA gaming with a budget price, $10, $20, as opposed to simply eating all that money and losses. I guarantee that some games could potentially see tremendous growth, and this may even propel revenue up so much that they continue the game and release more parts as they go. This would ultimately lead to a complete edition, including the entirety of the map. But my questions for this episode are, what do you think of this model of releasing a part of the unfinished game vision as opposed to outright canceling the game, closing the studio, etc.? Is this something you would be interested to try or purchase yourself? I would purchase a piece of many of these canceled games to get a taste of the game concept, like Scalebound, Silent Hills, PT, StarCraft, Ghost, Dark Cloud 3, Heavenly Sword 2, Star Wars 1313. Even if they couldn't release gameplay portions of the game, why not release something akin to Assassin's Creed Discovery Tour mode so that people could explore these conceived worlds? Reference back to Wonder Woman. P.S. Paradise on Hulu did keep my attention until the last episode. At some point, it would be fun to have you boys do a live trailer watch/react on the show for a particular show movie. Of course, one of Ranger's suggestions. Interesting suggestion. I'm not against it, Ranger, as far as doing live reacts. Ultimately, though, it comes down to not wanting to get copyright claims. And generally, we're a video game podcast. We talk about, don't get me wrong, we talk about movies and TV shows all the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like I like that, but maybe that's a good idea for another show, maybe, or another little segment just for like TikTok or Instagram. I don't know. We'll noodle on that. But with that, Kajoma, what do you think of this model? What do you think about, hey, game gets canceled, but we're going to release it anyways in this partial state? Do you think that's viable in any way? Reasonable? Is this something you would even be remotely interested in, or is this kind of nothing? What do you think?
I feel like this is kind of like sort of wishful thinking. I feel more often than not, I don't think that games are typically, well, 100% like it is unfortunate that like games get canceled and stuff like that. And like bringing up Star Wars 13 especially, that would be a game that I would be extremely interested in like playing and trying for sure. But I do think that like this sort of idea doesn't necessarily work, that I feel like most of the time with like video game development, things don't necessarily get like finished in chunks of like oh, now the first 5 missions of the game are done, and we have that as like a ready and like able to be played state, but like it would be still, I feel, more than likely unfinished, and like things that like you would go back into the game and polish it and stuff like that. And so I don't think that this would necessarily work as a concept, or it would require a lot of additional work to get the game to a spot where it is like playable in any sort of like function.
Yeah, that was the first thing that went through my mind. Is like the way they make games generally, like it might have been beautiful, expansive, blah, 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 like, but I'm sure there was, it was one of those things where you actually peek behind the curtain, and it was like, what's that that meme with Homer Simpson where like he's standing up with his hands on his hips and he like looks like amazing from the front and the back. It's just all these like clothespins and clamps and stuff holding all this fat. Like that's what most video games look like during development, up until just like sometimes like a couple months before release. Like you have a release date, or even like days before release. Like you hear horror stories. There's games that release that are in shambles. like that's a normal thing. So that's where I see this fall apart. Like it would basically mean studios would need to completely change how they develop games, where they would develop games to like with it as like chunks, essentially, like break it up into sections and be like, all right, we're not going to move on to the next section until we've 100% complete this first section. But that's like not necessarily reasonable, because it's like, well, I don't know, like a mechanic you have dialed in this first section might like seem like this, oh, this is perfect, this is great, works great for this section, but then that same mechanic you want to use later, but in a different situation, you're like, oh, it doesn't work here, and now we have to totally rewrite this mechanic, and down the road when they want to put all these sections together, they have to like basically rewrite the code again. Like, I don't know, there's this piece with there'd be so much cleanup that would have to happen in order for this to be a finished product. Like, I don't think there's a world where they just release what they have and it's okay. Plus, unfortunately, too, a lot of the studios, they cancel these games, and that's a major tax write-off for them. I mean, whether they do that on purpose or not, but like what was that movie that just like
the Batwoman movie?
Batwoman.
Or Batgirl.
Yeah, Batgirl. And then Warner Brothers had that other one too. It was like that Looney Tunes one.
Yeah.
That was canceled.
Wile E. Coyote or something like that. One of those.
Yeah. And so I just feel like it's like, I don't know. With Wonder Woman, obviously it would have been sick if it came out, but it's like, all right, like, would it actually been playable and enjoyable? Because maybe it is playable. Yeah. But would it ultimately be that enjoyable? Carrie kind of makes a good point. I feel like that's just early access, and that's true. It would just be like early access, like what a lot of games do on Steam, like indie games and stuff like that. But at least that is an active development generally. Like it's early access, but you are still getting updates and things are changing. Like imagine you spend $20 on Wonder Woman for a section of that. And then there's like a game breaking bug that, only certain people deal with, but it doesn't, I mean, even if everyone dealt with it, no one dealt with it, it doesn't, or, just a handful, doesn't matter the number of people dealing with it. There will never be another update for that game again. Like that's the whole point. Like that's kind of the idea he's proposing here. Ranger is just like it releases and then, well, what you get is what you get. You don't throw a fit kind of thing. It's like, well, I don't know. I would be pretty ticked off if I spent money on that. Through Steam, you get a refund, but PlayStation, you don't get refunds. Xbox, you don't get refunds. Nintendo, you don't get refunds generally. Like, so you're kind of just stuck with it. It would be.
I also feel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I also feel like the idea of like continuing development on it, if like it does well necessarily, is also like I think it would more than likely lead to like bad PR for like AAA companies and stuff like that. Like it's like, oh, you're too cheap to like actually finish this game, and so you're gonna sell a like. I feel like people already get mad when like games come out, and obviously when games come out and they're not finished, but like the idea of specifically selling an unfinished game to people, I don't think that anyone's gonna like look at that and be like, oh yeah, this is a cool concept. I'm like okay with this. Even if like the alternative is that you never get to play it, I think more than likely it would lead to a much more negative PR rather than anything sort of positive about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a terrible idea, Ranger. There's just a lot of things that would have to get ironed out first to make it viable. What does tick me off the most, honestly, is reading where it says your list of canceled games, and reading like PT, Silent Hill's PT. That just makes me angry because there literally was a playable demo for that, and they took it down. And I was like what you proposed. I mean, they didn't exactly do that. It was just a demo. Like they didn't have any, like, it's not like they had a chunk of the game done, but, and I mean, from what I understand from like interviews and stuff and what has come out, that demo is pretty much all they had as far as like developed. Anything, like everything else is just concepts. And then from what I understand, the demo that came out was completely different from what the actual game was even going to be. Like it really was like a proof of concept of like physics and like ambiance and theme, but it wasn't even necessarily like subject material of the game and stuff. so it's like, but still, that ticks me off to this day that was taken off PlayStation Store, that demo, because it's like, are you kidding me? Like, who's it hurting being out there, you know? But yeah. Fortunately, people have done extremely faithful recreations on PC. So there's a couple years ago on Spooky Gamer Boys, I played through it, and oh man, so incredible, so good. Like it is fantastic, and they're only getting better. Like people are going through the original version of it and like tweaking the PC versions. And there's a VR version. That's I still haven't played that. I downloaded the VR version and meant to play it on stream during a Spooky Gamer Boys and still haven't. So maybe that's something I need to dust off and pull out this October and play some VR PT and wet my pants on stream. Oh man, crazy. Is there one game in particular? I mean, you mentioned Star Wars 1313, but is there another one in particular you could think of that, like, man, I wish I could kind of play a little bit of? Or
I feel like it's just Star Wars 1313.
Yeah,
that game. Yeah, like Jason Schreier has a book. I don't remember what it's called at the moment, but about like different like game development stories and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And one of the chapters in there was about Star Wars 1313, and it was like, I think if I remember correctly, that game was like mostly done to when it got like canceled and ended. And it was just like basically it got caught up in the whole Disney purchasing Star Wars
right
debacle, and just like all sorts of basically every LucasArts game that was in development just got canceled. And so
dang,
unfortunately
sucks.
But yeah, that's the only, I think that's, at least at the moment, that's the only game that I can think of that got canceled that I would be extremely interested in playing. So.
Well, neat. Well, thank you so much for that, Ranger. Remember, if you want to write in a question to us, you can join us on Discord, supergamerboys.com/Discord. You can also write in on the Contact Us form on our website, supergamerboys.com, like Ranger does, I guess, if you want to be a weirdo. Yeah, join us over on Discord, though. We have a submit mailbag section, which we've gotten a couple questions. So sorry I haven't pulled them out recently. I just... I see you writing in. It's one of those things where it's nice to stockpile them sometimes because we don't get them all that often. So it's nice to have a couple in the can when we need them. So thank you for those writing in. And if you have any questions that you'd love to ask us, shoot them our way. We'd love to see them. All right, Kajoma, Caleb. I keep going back and forth. It's hard to know. Is there one you prefer? Or are you good with either?
Either works. You can call me Caleb, though. It doesn't.
Okay.
It works for me.
I just subconsciously go back and forth.
That's fine.
So I just hope it's not annoying. Anyways,
no answer to either one. So
I honestly, I know you better as Kajoma, because that's what we've called you on the show for the past 6.5 years. Is that how long we've been going?
Something
for?
Like that.
7 years? I don't know. It's been a while. Anyways, it's now time for the nerdy nudes. Now, do you wanna take it for a spin? You wanna give it a shot?
It's now time for the nerdy nudes.
Okay, that's an interesting take on it. I was waiting for that high register there. Like, let's see. You have a low voice.
I was gonna try,
let's
and
see.
then I started far too low to get there.
Oh, very good, very good. All right, well, let's get this news story up. The most important news story of the year. Nothing else matters, honestly. Coming from Screen Rant, the internet's best gaming news site, written by Yulia Geichman. I probably butchered that, and I apologize. But you know what? I'm sorry.
Close enough.
Close enough. Death Stranding 2 on the beach fans are outraged that one key item is missing from the collector's edition. Now let's just ignore that headline for a minute, because you may or may not agree with that headline. But here's the deal. A new trailer details everything included in the Death Stranding 2 on the beach collector's edition. But fans are upset that the expensive edition doesn't come with a physical game disc. The upcoming game from legendary game producer Hideo Kojima Productions received a release date and star-studded trailer earlier this month. Last week. The game will continue the journeys of a lone courier played as Norman Reedus through a post-apocalyptic. Well, I can't talk. My tongue's broken. Post-apocalyptic landscape. The sequel to Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding will launch on the PS5 on June 26th, with pre-orders beginning on March 17th. That's today if you're watching this live, and Monday, a couple days ago if you're watching this later on Wednesday. Several editions will be available for purchase, from the standard edition at $69.99 to a collector's edition price at a whopping $229.99. A new trailer from PlayStation has been released, showcasing everything included in the collector's edition. Many fans are upset that the expensive option will only have a key for digital download of the game instead of a physical copy. So that is the gist of this news article here. We'll continue here in a minute. But first off, I need to talk about this trailer that was released at South by Southwest, like 10.5 minutes long of insanity, and I am all for it. Like, I was just loving every second of it. I have watched that trailer probably like 3 times, and there was a new music video put out for because Woodkid is apparently doing a bunch of the soundtrack. So kind of like with the first game, he had tapped Low Roar with a lot of his songs. This one, they're tapping Woodkid to do some music for it, which honestly, Woodkid's one of those artists that I've heard some of their songs, but I've never like purposely listened to them, if that makes sense. Like if they're on the radio, I'm like, he has a very recognizable sound and voice. Like his voice is very recognizable, and like just the sound of his music generally sounds the same. Like you can tell it's a Woodkid song before he even starts singing sometimes, because it's just like, okay, there's a certain sound vibe to it, even though I haven't even listened to him that much. So there's like a new music video they put out because he wrote an original song just for the trailer. And it's so good. I've watched that probably like a half dozen times too. I was stoked out of my mind. Super excited for Death Stranding 2. The fact that it's coming out this year blew my mind, because I feel like, and maybe I need to go back. Maybe it's just like, maybe it's a little bit of revisionist history. Maybe I like in my head, maybe I'm misremembering things. I feel like the first Death Stranding had more trailers leading up to it before we got a release date. Like, because I remember there being like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 different trailers at least of like random moments throughout the game with no context at all. And because that's what, like, it wasn't even like a trailer. It was more just like, hey, here's like 5 minutes of the game kind of. Yeah. And that would be it, you know? And And leading up like years up to it, like I feel like we got like one, then like a year later we got another one, then like a year later we got another one, then finally we got like a release date trailer kind of thing. Again, that's what I remember. Maybe I'm incorrect, but I just feel like there was a lot more lead up. Like this one, we've only had one other trailer, I think, and that was it.
I feel like that's
like
accurate, yeah.
So you got one other trailer, like announcing it basically, and then this announcing the date, and I'm like, what the, like, okay, cool. So I was like, I knew there's a trailer coming out at South by Southwest. I was just anticipating, okay, we're not going to get any date. It's probably coming out next year or something. And then when it's like, what? That's in like 2 months. Are you kidding me? Like that's incredible. Like I was like, it blew my mind. So absolutely stoked for that. I obviously pre-ordered the collector's edition. I missed out on pre-ordering the first collector's edition, but fortunately my man Adrian hooked me up. Got my, for those audio listeners, holding my baby Lou, my little BB. And I even have the little keychain on there, little Ludens. I had... I don't know. Somehow I totally missed out that there was a collector's edition. Like somehow I missed it off my radar. And then Adrian, once he joined the podcast, the show, he's like, he knew how much I adored this game. He's like, dude, like, do you want my collector's edition? I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, I'll pay you for it. He's like, no, you can just have it. You can have it. He's like, you like this game too much. I'm like, are you serious? So thank you, Adrian, for the wonderful gift. But this time around, I'm like, I'm not missing it. I'm not missing out. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't know any of these characters. And if you're watching on the YouTube, you can see I have like the collector's edition highlighted. So it does come with the full game download. Comes with a nice collector's box, a 3-inch doll man figure, some art cards, some in-game content, early access. You get 2 days early. So June 24th instead of June 26th. But the big set piece, kind of like how in the first one, you know, it was the big old BB. The big set piece in this one is a 15-inch Magellan Man statue. No idea who the heck this character is, but let me tell you, it looks absolutely wild, and I'm all about it. I cannot wait. So with that, share my thoughts on the trailer, on the collector's edition. I'm in. I got a pre-order this morning. I'm 100% on board with this, but people are having issues with that digital download. Not getting, because I think the original one came with a steelbook with a physical copy of the game. This one does not. Is that kind of thing, Kajoma, does that kind of thing turn you off with a game, like physical releases in general? And then does that also turn you off with like a collector's edition kind of thing? Like if you were spending $230 on a collector's edition of a game, would you be upset that there isn't a physical copy of the game? Or are you, I guess, on my side where it's like, games are digital now, baby. Like I have a digital only PlayStation. Like why would I want a disc? You know, like, I don't know. Like, that's where I stand. That's fair. To put it bluntly, but where are you at on this whole thing?
I feel like I'm a big fan of physical media. I think it's cool. It does feel like kind of potentially like weird in like this day and age where most often like physical discs are kind of just like codes in themselves anyways, and not much of the game is actually on the disc,
right?
And so there's definitely like an argument to be made there, but I do think like, I don't know, steelbooks are cool. Like I remember my dad had a steelbook of Halo 2 and I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever.
That's sick.
But I personally, I have never bought a collector's edition of a game, but if I did buy one, I think I would like if it had a physical copy of the game. I think that would be neat. But like, I guess potentially I'd be okay without it, but I don't know. I think physical copies of games are cool. I do like them. I do. Obviously, most of the games that I have are digital, but like, I think I I like physical media. I think it's an important thing to keep around and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the steelbook from the first one. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty sick.
It is nice. Yeah, it is cool art, and obviously has a disc in there, PS4 version of Death Stranding there. But so Carrie says in the chat, when I'm spending the money for collectors, I want a physical copy. I see where you're coming from. I guess what I think is they should just offer two different versions of the collector's edition, like a digital version and a physical. Because here's the deal.
I think that's fair.
And I don't know, because for me, and I guess here's my hope. I don't know if this is a fact. This might be completely made up in my head, but in my head, I'm saying I almost feel like I would hope that the space and the cost that it would, take up, like having a physical version, because physical version, it is technically more expensive to make a physical version than the digital version for them. So sure. My hope and wish is that by not having that in there, not only does it, that some of that money that would be going towards the game could go towards other items in the collector's edition, or physically, okay, it doesn't have to have a disc case in there. Now we can fit something else in there.
Sure.
Which instead of just getting a statue, basically, okay, now we're getting the 3-inch Dollman figure and, as well, maybe that's the cost of that or whatever. Maybe not, that's might not what's actually happening or what happens, but that's how I justify it in my head, at least. But I don't know, I guess, because that's the other thing, because my thought too is okay, I buy a collector's edition, I get the physical version of the game, I can't play it. So then I have to I have to buy a digital version of the game to play it. So then it costs me more money. So it's I would rather just either have two different versions or have the digital version here, because I don't want to have to spend another $80 or $70 or whatever it is to buy the digital version when I have a physical version sitting on a shelf. That would be, this seems wild to me.
That's very fair.
But says the guy who owns Death Stranding probably about 12 different times. I bought it on every platform: PlayStation, PC, iPhone. I've bought the regular versions, the director's cut editions on all those platforms. So I'm still buying it 10 times over. Yeah, someone's got to support Kojima over there. He's an indie developer. He needs all the help he can get.
You and Jeff Keighley.
Me and Jeff Keighley. Oh man. But yeah, I see where people are coming from. But so then at the end of the day, I guess I just say my solution is, well, have two versions. Have the digital deluxe collector's edition and the physical collector's edition. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But one thing with this collector's edition too, because I feel like in the one for Death Stranding 1, it was it was basically one of the suitcases that you carry. I have it up on the shelf up there, it's a massive suitcase box. It came with that, and inside had BB, it had Ludens, it actually has a roll of tape in there. It's the tape that's used on the packages in the game. It says void if tampered or whatever, the yellow tape, which I've never used. Actually, I should pull that out. It'd be sick to use on something, put on my iPad or something. Because it make a computer case for it on my laptop. I felt like there was more being offered in the Death Stranding 1, where this one is just the statue, the figurine, and some art. And apparently a letter from Hideo Kojima. But then it is a lot of digital items. That's one thing I don't like. So I could care less about the game being digital or physical. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there's so many in-game items I'm getting, I get a machine gun with MP bullets, level 1, early unlock, golden skeleton boots, patches that I can put on my backpack in the game, stuff like that. It's man, I don't know. If I'm paying for a collector's edition, more like knickknacks would be cool, right? Like when I bought the collector's edition of Omori, it came with like that little, I'm pointing at it, it's all blurry because out of focus, but it came with like a grand piano music box that plays like the theme song. It came with an envelope full of trinkets, like from the game, all references, probably like a dozen things in there. There's like a dozen little knickknacks and, you know, tchotchkes and stuff. And it was so cool, so cute, so fun to like go through there and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I remember this moment. Oh, there's a picture of whatever. Like it was so cool where I do feel, and that was only like $100 or less even, where this is 230 and it seems crazy. I'm just getting a statue and a doll man figure, but I also I'm stoked. I'm stoked to get it, but I feel like there could have been more, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Have you bought any? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was also just going to say, I was like looking at this image and I didn't realize that the patches were like in the in-game items section. I was like, oh, these are kind of cool. I was like, that could have been neat, but that is unfortunate that they're not like physical versions, because I think those that could be cool.
If it was physical patches, that would be sick. I'd be stoked to have, especially these ones. Like they're awesome. Like the little capybara, happy. This is happy. Like the little cat, like chiral feline, the why me, like all of them. Like, oh, that'd be sick. I'd put that on a backpack or something.
100%.
But yeah, they're just digital in-game patches. It's like, oh, they kind of missed on that one. But I was going to ask, have you ever bought a collector's edition of a game? And if so, which ones? What's one of your favorites that you've gotten?
I have not purchased one. I think the closest that I've gotten is there is like a like video game, like sort of retro video game and like board game store in my town, and they have I'm probably gonna get this at some point potentially if they still have it, but they have a Destiny, like I think Destiny 1 collector's edition. Whoa. I think it's like $20-$30, something like that. And obviously it's not something that I'm like actually going to play, and the servers are still online for Destiny and stuff like that. But if there was going to be something that I bought for collector's edition, it would probably be that. But I have not, as far as I remember, I don't think that I bought a collector's edition. Okay. I think I didn't have money for most of the time that I would have wanted one potentially. And then ever since I've had money, get that. I don't think anything has come out that I'm like, that's something that I'd like to get. I think I was like maybe close with like a Destiny 1 at some point, but I did not do it. So
the only other one I've almost gotten was for God of War Ragnarok, and I had it pre-ordered, and those sold out like immediately. And like a dummy, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, oh shoot, actually I can't afford this. I'm gonna cancel it. And looking back now, even Adrian was like, what were you thinking? Like, I'm sure there was probably a half dozen people I could have talked to who wanted one, who didn't get one. I could have like just gave it to them, or kept it and then like resold it on eBay, because it's like they sold out so quickly. It was like a 6 statue of like Atreus and what's his name? Why can't I think of his freaking name? Kratos. And like, oh man, it was a gorgeous thing. I would have loved to keep it, but later I'm like, why did I cancel it? I'm an idiot. Like I could have either helped out a buddy or like made some extra cash off it, like made money off of it. But now I know. Don't cancel pre-orders.
The only other one that I've like would have been interested in, but it was like before my time to like get, was I've seen like the Halo Reach collector's edition with that like stand with all the like 5 Spartans on it. And that one's pretty sick. If that one was like available, I would get that. Cool.
So cool. All right. Well, let's move on to this next news story. This next news story is comes to us from IGN, written by Wesley Yinpool. Full next-gen Xbox reportedly set for 2027. Xbox branded gaming handheld due out later in 2025. A new report has outlined Microsoft's video game hardware ambition, alleging a full next-gen Xbox is set for 2027, and an Xbox branded gaming handheld is due out later in 2025. Windows Central reported on a partner PC gaming handheld codenamed Keenan, which is apparently in the works for late 2025 and a successor to the Xbox Series X and S, now fully in production, due out in 2 years. Microsoft has yet to comment on the report. However, its gaming executives have spoken publicly about both devices in vague terms across various interviews. In January, Jason Ronald, Microsoft's VP of Next Generation, told The Verge that the company plans to combine Xbox and Windows experiences together for PC gaming handhelds made by original equipment manufacturers, otherwise known as third-party hardware manufacturers. Existing PC gaming OEMs include Asus, Lenovo, and Razer. Keenan does not relate to a first-party Xbox handheld, which Microsoft Gaming Phil Spencer recently indicated is years away. As for the next-gen Xbox, Windows Central said it is fully greenlit by Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. The console is reportedly a premium successor to the Xbox Series X, and this console, alongside a first-party Xbox gaming handheld and new controllers, are set to round out Microsoft's console offerings in 2027. The suggestion then is Microsoft does not plan to release a direct next-gen successor to the less powerful Xbox Series S. Perhaps Microsoft expects its handheld to occupy the cheaper, less powerful console space. Windows Central expects the next-gen Xbox will be more like a PC than any Xbox before it and will support third-party storefronts such as Steam, the Epic Game Store, and GOG. Continued backwards compatibility is a given. Last year, Xbox President Sarah Bond said Microsoft was moving full speed ahead in our next generation hardware, focusing on delivering the biggest technological leap ever in a generation. There's a little bit more of that article, but that's the gist of it. Caleb, how are you feeling about this? We are 5 years into this gen. This is due out supposedly in 2027, so after 7 years. You think we're about due for an Xbox? I guess first, do you own an Xbox?
I own an Xbox One, the original VHS looking one.
Wow. For some reason, I thought you had like a Series S or X or something. Crazy.
No,
you mostly do PC. Yeah, you mostly do PC, huh? Crazy.
Yeah, I've thought about it a couple of times, and I'm just like, there's nothing really for me that it could do better than my PC. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I would rather put money towards that than get a console. And so I have not bought a console this generation. Except for I bought a Switch.
You're not missing out on much. Not missing out. Both PlayStation and Xbox. Basically. Not a lot going on. We're 5 years in, nothing going on.
Yeah.
My PlayStation 5 has only played like 2 games on it pretty much since I bought it. I'm sure there's been more than that realistically, but 2 games that I even can remember, honestly, like God of War Ragnarok and Astrobot. Yeah. I maybe fired up Death Stranding Director's Cut for like a hot minute and then never finished it. Isn't that crazy? Elden Ring. I forgot. I got Elden Ring on PlayStation. But still, it's crazy to me. And not to say there isn't more there's PlayStation exclusives I haven't had a chance to play yet, but that more comes down to monetarily, budget wise, not being able to afford those games. But I don't know. In the past, that was my daily driver, my PlayStation. That's all I played. So it's crazy to me in the last 5 years how I've gone from, PlayStation or die to, well, if I can get it on Steam, I can play it on my PC at home or on my Steam Deck on the go. Why would I buy it on PlayStation when I can take it on an airplane with me, Right. But I don't know. And my setup is not ideal. I used to have a living room where my PlayStation was set up. Now in our living situation since 2021, living with my in-laws is we do no longer have a living room. It's kind of it's set up here in my office, and it's like, okay, I gotta literally leave my house and walk down to a barn outside of a gate. It's like a process. I don't just stumble in the living room and play games. It's like I have to leave the house and walk down here and unlock my office and set everything up, turn the lights on. I'm like, okay, at that point, I'm ready to go to bed. It's nap time. But have you mostly been PC gaming then, probably for the last few years? If your last console was the Xbox One, it's been a while, 10 years. It's been a while for
So I I bought a PC in 2021. And before that, I bought my Xbox in like, I think 2015, because Destiny they dropped 360, and so I had to get a new console.
Oh, okay.
And so, because I was on a 360 beforehand, and I had that, and it's great. It still works. Yeah. We mostly use it to launch TVs and Blu-rays and stuff like that now. And I played a bunch on it, but I have switched pretty much exclusively to my PC or my Switch now. So
yeah. One thing with the Xboxes too, and what I was trying to hit at before when I was talking about my PlayStation 2 is like, it's hard to, like, even though I don't play my PlayStation often, I couldn't imagine not having it because, well, up until recently, I guess, that was the only place to play PlayStation exclusives. Now even those are coming to PC. But that was my argument with Xbox before, is like, why would I buy an Xbox when it's coming day one to Game Pass on PC? Like, I can just spend, like, I don't have a current Game Pass subscription, but when there's a game I do want to play, it's like I spend $10 and I can play for a month and then I cancel it. And like, that's it. Like, it's great. I don't have to go out and buy a new console. I don't have to spend $70 on the game. I can just play on my PC, and then when I'm happy and content with it, with what I played, I move on. It's just so easy. So I don't know. This console, like they said, needs to be like revolutionary, which I don't know how they're going to do it. Making it a PC, if they can make it an affordable PC, like they're saying, basically, like, hey, this is a PC you put in your living room, like, it's compact, it's easy to use, like an easy to use, like, dumbed down version of Windows on it. That's just like, it's basically it's a game console. It's going to run like an Xbox, but it's running Windows. So then Steam, GOG, all these other things, like, you know what? Good on them. Like, that actually sounds sick. Because people will do that. They'll build a specific PC for their living room, you know, so that way they can have like high-end gaming, or just to be able to access Steam games without having to go sit in an office. They can sit on their couch and play. So if that's the case, if they can give me like access to you know, kind of like how I view my Steam Deck right now, like, oh, I can play my games on the go. If it's just one more place to make it easier to play my PC games than sitting at a desk playing games, I'm not against it. That actually sounds sick. Yeah,
100%.
Especially 100%. With the hundreds of games that I have untouched in my Steam library. I forget where there was something online where you're able to like type in your name and it like scans your profile and tells you like all the games and like basically how much you've spent and how little you've played the games. And it was embarrassing. I was like, oh no, oh my gosh, this is not good. This was so wrong. Yeah, and then a handheld, I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, is there even a place for that? Like, because if their console is just becoming a PC, then what's the difference between this, like their handheld, and what the Steam Deck is already doing? Other than you can't play Game Pass on the Steam Deck, but why not just add why not just add Steam Deck support? You know, like, I don't know.
I think, I agree. I think it's kind of cool as just like another one of those, you know, like in the same space as Steam Deck and Asus and whatnot, and ROG, with like those different like handhelds and such. Yeah. I think, I don't know, an Xbox One is, I don't know, it's kind of cool, especially if it like also plays your Xbox games and stuff like that. Might as well. A little bit more competition, you know?
I guess I just hope it actually plays Xbox games natively, because my fear is like they're going to put it out and it's just going to stream Game Pass, which is what everything else does. And it's like, no, if you're going to make an Xbox handheld, make it play games natively. I know PlayStation isn't doing that, but we're all pissed off at PlayStation too. Like, they put out the PlayStation Portal and it just streams games. Like, are you kidding me? Like, no, like, come on. We want real handheld devices. If you want to compete with the likes of the Nintendo Switch and upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever they're calling it, then put out a real freaking handheld. Don't put out like a streaming box that you can play in your hands. Like, that's not realistic. Not everyone is only using this in their home where there's Wi-Fi. Like, people like myself. I use my Steam Deck on the plane. Like it's like my favorite travel thing, or like, or just wherever I am, I'm out and about, pull out my Steam Deck. It's like, okay, I can play that thing anywhere. But yeah, so to be able to natively play an Xbox game on a handheld device sounds sick, but yeah, I'm just afraid that's not the case. It's just going to turn into, it is just a mini PC. It's basically an ROG Ally, but with like native Xbox support or something like that. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see, but
yeah, I feel like that's still like not a terrible idea for a product. Like if it does like have all your games from Xbox on it, and I feel like it more than likely, I would guess that it would be able to play them natively rather than stream it, because it's portable and you want your games to be downloaded on there and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Got a couple more years to enjoy what we have. I guess my next question is PlayStation looking at and putting something out sooner than later? Like, I would assume so. They're usually pretty close together, their releases, but to me, it just seems crazy for either one of them to be moving on with just how this generation has gone. Like and me and Adrian have talked about this on previous shows. Like we both have said, we feel like they came out with a PS5 Pro, right? But no, who was complaining about the PS5 at this point? Like, yeah, I remember with like my PS4, like when they announced the PS4 Pro, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Because my PS4 sounds like a freaking jet engine. Like it is struggling. Like I could cook eggs on the top of it. Like it would get like, it was overheating, like borderline dying, like struggling. It would get to the point where it's just like screaming for help. Please put me out of my misery, trying to play the freaking like The Last of Us 2 and stuff like that. But my PlayStation, okay, I don't play it a ton, but the games I do play are like, I've played a couple like bigger games. Like I even think of like Ragnarok or I don't know. There was something else I tried recently, some demo for an upcoming game. But it's, it was a gorgeous game, big game. And I don't like the fans are so quiet. They hardly even kick on, or you can't even note it. Like, and which is good. I mean, maybe they're running at full speed and that's just the technology is that good and I don't notice, but I don't know. I've never noticed any sort of like hitching or anything like that in a game, or like where something is like, ooh, yep, that's taking a little longer to load, or like even touch my PlayStation, it's like 100 degrees and burns my finger or something. Like that was the thing with my PlayStation 4. Like, yeah, I was like, you'd touch it and be like, ooh, hot. Like that would hurt your finger. So I don't know. To me, it almost comes across like, oh, there's more you can push the PS5. Why are we already jumping to a 5 Pro when we've barely, and then in 2 years, possibly moving to a 6 when we're barely pushing the envelope here, other than just to make, other than it's just a cash grab, to make more money.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Who knows? I guess we'll find out soon enough. And with that, let's move on to this last news story. About PlayStation. Sony is experimenting with AI-powered PlayStation characters. This is from The Verge, written by Tom Warren. Sony is working on a prototype AI-powered version of at least one of its PlayStation game characters. An anonymous tipster has shared an internal video from Sony's PlayStation Group with The Verge that demonstrates an AI-powered version of Aloy from Horizon Forbidden West. After we published the story, the video was pulled from YouTube due to a copyright claim from Muso, a copyrights enforcement company which advertises Sony Interactive Entertainment as a client. The video is narrated by Sharwin Raghobardajal, director of software engineering at Sony Interactive Entertainment, who works on video game technology, AI, computer vision, and face technology for Sony's PlayStation Studios Advanced Technology Group. We watched, I'm going to call him Sharwin. I'm not going to call him by his last name. I'm sorry.
Fair.
Or them. I guess I don't know if it's a he or she. we watched Sharwin demonstrate an AI-powered version of Aloy that can hold a conversation with a player through voice prompts during gameplay. Aloy could be seen responding to queries with an AI-powered synthesized voice and facial movements, both on a demo setting and within the full Horizon Forbidden West game. Sharwin makes it clear this is just a prototype that has been developed alongside Guerrilla Games to demonstrate the technology internally at Sony. The technology demo used OpenAI's Whisper for speech-to-text and both GPT-4 and Llama 3 for conversations and decision-making. Sony has its own internal emotional voice synthesis system that it uses for speech generation, according to Sharwin, and audio-to-face animation is powered by Sony's own Mockingbird technology. While the demo is seen running on PC, Sony has also experimented with running parts of this technology directly on PS5 consoles with little overhead, according to Sharwin. Sony first demonstrated this internally a year ago before showing a more advanced version behind closed doors at its Sony Technology Exchange Fair in Tokyo in November. This is just a glimpse of what is possible, says Sharwin. This tech demo doesn't answer the more obvious questions over whether it even makes sense to talk to Aloy when you're supposed to be playing as her in Horizon Forbidden West, or the impact such technology could have on voice actors and game developers. NVIDIA has been working on its own similar technology for AI-powered NPCs in games where you speak freely to video game characters. ACE, as NVIDIA calls it, has been demonstrated several times throughout 2024, and the GPU maker has even worked with in-world AI to create Covert Protocol, a playable tech demo of NVIDIA's AI game technology. Microsoft has also been partnering close with in-world AI to eventually bring AI characters to Xbox, allowing game developers to use generative AI characters, storylines, and more. Microsoft has also created its own Muse AI model that generates gameplay, designed initially for game developers to create a game environment for prototyping and ideating. There is already a lot of fear among game developers and studios about how AI could impact the creative process of making video games, particularly when so many layoffs are impacting the games industry. Almost half, 49% of 3,000 respondents to Game Developers Conference 2024 survey said that generative AI tools are currently being used in their workplace, with 31% saying they personally use them. Sony's experiments with AI-powered PlayStation characters are bound to generate more conversations around the role of AI in video game creation just ahead of GDC next week. That's this week now in San Francisco. We reached out multiple times to Sony for a comment in this leaked internal video, but the company didn't respond. We've asked again to confirm whether Sony pulled the video and if it has further comment. Hoo-wee. So a lot to unpack there. Wild to me. Like, this is something that I was reading somewhere and I kind of chuckled is a game all about how AI basically destroyed the world. AI was like caused the end of the world, the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Is being used to demo AI AI generated characters. Wild to me. Like, that's the whole thing with Horizon. I guess spoilers for Horizon, the Horizon games.
Yeah.
It is a post-apocalyptic future, and all brought on by AI, and now they're using the main character of that game to power their AI, or using their AI to power Aloy from the game. It's like, wow, how backwards is that? That seems wild. Oh man. But this whole thing is, I don't know, scary, sad, weird. Like, I don't know, the technology is cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, from a tech point of view, like, this all sounds sick. But then when you think about the actual real impact and implications of this, it's not great. I don't know. You sent me a video earlier from Ashley Birch on TikTok, right? Do you want to talk about that? Did you watch that?
I did, yeah. She kind of talked about this thing, or this leaked video, and her thoughts on it were basically she checked in with Guerrilla, and they did not use her voice or likeness to train this AI. It was use different stuff to make it happen. And she talked about it and was kind of talking about the SAG strike that's happening right now, to try to get any sort of protections and common sense protections for AI, or for/against AI for actors and video game performers, so that they, can't have their likeness used without permission, that they get proper compensation for the work that they do, and so forth.
Yeah.
And she kind of basically, the gist of it was like, yeah, this is like potentially neat and stuff like that, but like, what are we, if this continues and is used in potentially non like helpful ways, like what do we lose out on, or do we just like lose the idea of a video game performer and actor/actress in general? And I think I'm personally not a very big fan of AI at all, and I do feel very like heavily that it's not helpful to, like, it can be neat for sure, but like I think it causes more harm than good as far as creating things. And I think yeah, especially as like we talk about like poor performances in video games, like that happens, that question and topic comes up every once in a while, and it's just like, why would we want to have basically not great, as AI is pretty consistently shown to not be like top high quality work done? Why would we want to make our video games worse by having non-real people acting in them?
Right. Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's like one of those things where it just, I don't know. AI has its uses. In general, I'm not a fan of AI, but there's a few times where it's like, okay, that's extremely handy. Like they're like at work just today. They needed me to do something a little different than my normal job. They're like, hey, you know how to do graphic design, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, we need you to make a flyer for something. I'm like, all right, cool. One of the guys is going on a trip overseas to some conference that's going on that we need to hand out flyers and brochures and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. I'd like designed this whole thing. But then I was just trying to figure out like the text to put on there. And they're like, oh, well, we have this old flyer. We don't really like it. But some of the text on there is good. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So again, and I was just like, okay, well, like some of the stuff I'm not familiar with, I'm newer to the company still, only been there 6 months, and I'm mostly just focused on my own project. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to take, basically I fire up ChatGPT and I was like, hey, scan this document and I want you to like give me a good, paragraph or like a couple good head, like a good heading for me to put on the front of a trifold brochure. And I was like, okay. And then boom, spit it out. And I was like, this is great. This is fantastic. Like, but the content was already written up by someone else who like wrote it and knew what they were talking about. And it basically just kind of like reconfigured it,
rephrased it,
and then just spit it out into like a more succinct version. So that way, instead of being like an entire page worth of content, it was just like 2 sentences so I could put on a little flyer or whatever. I'm like, that was fantastic. That was so much better than me having to sit there and read it and try to understand it and break it down, like what's important, what's not, because I didn't want to have to keep bothering my boss and being like, hey, what about this? What about that? So when I took it to him too, he's like, oh, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, good. So like with that kind of stuff, AI is amazing, but most of the work was already done. Like, and I've used AI in the past where it's like, okay, I have an idea and I'll write like a freaking novel into ChatGPT. So I'm doing all the work and I just need them to like almost like check it for me. Like, hey, just check it, or hey, can you just add a little extra oomph to it or something? And it's like, okay, boom. And it just does it. And it's like so freaking handy. But what this is talking about is like full on 100% just characters being AI powered, which like essentially cutting out the whole like soul of the character. Like, even if it's like, I know it costs time and money and all these things to like hire, because I'm sure I want to clarify this. What I'm assuming this is going to be used for is like NPCs and stuff, kind of like what NVIDIA is using it for. I couldn't imagine a main character ever being AI powered. I don't think that'll ever happen. But as far as like NPCs that you can interact with in the world and stuff, man, like there's a whole market of voice actors out there. Like that's how they survive, is these gigs. Like, yeah, they only have like 3 lines, but you know what? They do those 3 lines great, and they keep getting hired to do more NPC work and more games because they have great voices for NPCs, you know. And then eventually, you know, they move up the rung, and then they're able to maybe become a main character one day. You know, you got to start somewhere. But it's like doing this kind of cuts out that whole market where it's like, okay, well, how are you ever going to discover new talent when you don't have these like kind of lower positions, because it's all just being filled by AI? And eventually these current voice actors move on, whatever, maybe they, you know, retire or quit doing it or whatever the case might be. And then like there's no one to replace them. So then main characters do get just replaced by AI and stuff. Like, I don't know. It's just like the domino effect. You got to think like long term with this, or even if that doesn't happen, you know, okay, maybe everything, maybe they do just start replacing, I don't know, like capture performances and stuff with AI generated stuff. Like, I don't know, like you said, like you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like AI stuff is never great. Like it needs a lot of work, you know? And is it really save them that much money when they're having, in my head, I feel like they would have to put more time into perfecting the performance, like a performance capture of an AI versus just a performance capture of an actual person who just knows how to do the thing well, right? You get an expert in there, and who knows how to do whatever, like a backflip or some, or like an emotional scene where it's just like, you know, these people are talking and crying and emoting and all this stuff. But then to like, I don't know, like, okay, you do a couple takes and you get it. With AI, it's like, all right, you get it, but it's not quite right. And if it's close and you got to reconfigure it, I don't know. None of this makes sense. To me, it just seems like it doesn't actually, how could it save them that much money and time? But apparently it does, but at what cost? Like there's always a cost.
I feel like it's very much like a thing of like short-term like benefits and long-term repercussions. Like it will definitely like, it like might be cheaper for you in the like it right now to be like, all right, we're going to start doing AI NPCs. But then it's like, well, eventually people will look at that and they're like, well, you know, this is a video game that doesn't have like great NPCs and like no characters that aren't like the main characters are like in any way compelling, and kind of detracts from your story, you know, and just ends up with a generally worse product than what it would have been beforehand if more time and money had been put into it. And like, I think you want your game, I think developers want their games to be received well. They want to make good products. And I think more often than not, the thing that I am like scared of or like nervous about in this situation is like people who don't quite understand or get the idea behind like products and like for AAA games of being like, well, we should do this because it's cheaper. And it's like, well, sure, it's cheaper, but it's going to make it worse. And they're like, well, it doesn't really matter how much that it's going to be slightly worse. We're going to make more money by cutting out this cost.
Yeah.
And we end up getting far worse products in the general because things were pushed that shouldn't have been pushed. And then potentially that leads to games not doing well because they're received poorly or they don't have those sort of things. And then we get more studios shut down and so forth, you know?
Yeah. No, it ultimately just, it doesn't add up. And yeah, you hit it right on the head. Like short-term, you know, benefits for long-term, it's just destroying the industry even more than it already is. Like that's the thing. Right. It's already in shambles. Yeah. And this is like, almost feels like a final nail in the coffin. It's like, all right, like this is just destroying this beautiful art. Right. And just kind of I don't know, just so careless, but we'll see. I don't know. I guess I didn't realize that the voice actors were still on strike. For some reason, I feel like I remember us doing an episode where I thought I did an update where like, hey, yeah, like we're able to come to an agreement, but apparently not. Because and Ashley Birch's her TikTok there, she mentioned that they're still technically striking. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. Because there was even some people I followed on Instagram who they weren't allowed to talk about certain games for a little bit while they were striking. And then after like a few months, I remember them going back to like in their Instagram stories talking about the games and stuff that they had voice acted in and done stuff. So I guess I just assumed they were back on track, but maybe it was like a partial thing where like they kind of like started to come to agreement. Like they came back to the table. So they're not like outright like 100% striking, but they're also still not in agreement. So I don't know. Sad. I couldn't imagine being in that position too. Like, oh, my livelihood is on the line here. You know, literally being threatened by computers. And I mean, we didn't even talk about like AI being used to actually just replicate people too. Like, and that's what the whole strike is about. Is like, hey, voice actors don't want AI versions of themselves. But like that is like, that's the next step, honestly, unfortunately, is like, okay, first it starts with NPCs, but then pretty soon it's like, well, we don't need to hire Troy Baker. We can just get his likeness. Even if the SAG-AFTRA strike thing goes through, my fear is like, because one of the things that Ashley mentions in her TikTok is like, you know, we're working to get fair compensation for AI likenesses. If they do use us to make an AI version of us, like in a game or something, we want to at least get fairly compensated for it. And in my head, what went through my head is like, if you're not getting the same price you'd be getting if you were standing in that voice booth, like the recording booth, like there shouldn't be any agreement. Like that's what, like, I couldn't imagine like, okay, I don't know how much voice actors get paid, but just bear with me with these fake pretend numbers I'm about to throw out. Pretend like, you know, Troy Baker, they're like, hey, we're going to pay you. We typically pay you $30 an hour to come record in a booth. He's obviously not getting, he's getting much more than that, but you get what I'm saying. $30 an hour. And then like all of a sudden they're like, oh, but we're going to use your AI version. We're only going to pay you like 25 or like 23 or something like that. Like, no, like, I'm doing less work, but that's still me, you know, it's still getting my name is on that product. So not only does that represent me and like who I am, but also my name, and a lot of voice actors like this, like my name being on there brings in people who want to, like they see my name and like, oh, I want to play the next Ashley Birch game. I want to play the next Troy Baker game or whoever it is. So it just seems wild to me that it would be like the way she said it almost made it sound like the compensation could be different. I'm like, they should be exactly the same. If they're not getting paid the same amount as they would be normally, then that should be completely off the table, in my opinion. That seems wild.
I agree.
But
I think also like another thing in that same vein is like, not only is it like these voice actors' name and like likeness and so forth, but it's also like the work that they have done. Like these like AI programs would be trained on the things that they have done before. It's like, it's even though it's not things that they're doing like at that moment necessarily, but it is like still the things that they have done before. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, I don't know. AI, when it's used in its right spot, like it is great. But I don't know. Overall, it's one of those things where like, man, was it actually worth it? Is this actually good? Is this a good thing? Like just to have those few tiny, minuscule, like helpful moments. Is it worth having those little like, perks for the, in general, probably broader destruction it's going to cause, essentially, you know? Like, does that actually outweigh, one outweigh the other there? But We'll have to wait and see. I guess in a couple of years, if we're living in, it's like freaking Terminator outside and we're fighting the machines, machine guns, and fighting Elon Musk, and his Tesla bots, or whatever is happening out there. Guess we'll find out. All righty. Well, that is it for our news stories this week. It's now time for our Patreon ad. All right, this is the part of the show where I tell you to go over to patreon.com/supergamerboys and support us over there, starting at just $1 a month. That's right, $1 each and every month gets you episodes early and ad-free, such as this show, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive shows like Super Later Boys, which a little birdie told me we might be recording a new episode of that. Looking forward to that. Catching up with Adrian here soon. And then also access to our previous previous season's Super Gamer Book Club, only available there, hosted by Zetch. He's the original host of Book Club. You can go check those out over at patreon.com/supergamerboys. You can also support us at the $5 a month level and get those previous perks and the show notes early. You'll get the show notes for this show ahead of time, sometime over the weekend before, and you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about, whether it's questions, news stories, what we've been playing. And the best part about it too is you have the ability to leave your own comments, questions, concerns, thoughts right on the doc. So if you're like, hey, I have thoughts on that news story, or I want to answer that listener question, or if you just want to share what you've been playing, what you've been thinking about a specific game, send it in. We'd love to read it. We get them here and there, and it's always a blast, always a pleasure to read those off. So if you want to have that ability, $5 a month, and get support us over there. We'd appreciate that. $10 a month, you get all those previous perks and a big old shout out to top of each and every episode as a Super Gamer sponsor. I always forget the names of these, the tiers half the time. It's terrible. We've been doing this for how long? I can't remember them. Super Gamer sponsor, though. You get shout out top of each and every episode and those previous perks. Then there's a top dog tier, Patreon producer, $15 a month. You can support us over there and you get all those previous perks and the ability to pitch us a show segment or just straight up be on a show, honestly. We've had Kajoma here a couple times, and that's how it worked out with Adrian in the past. He was originally a Patreon producer, and he had Super Indie Boys. His segment there was phenomenal. Always a blast to get those in. And then one day it's like, hey, you want to join the team? And then the rest is history. It's a fun perk. It's fun getting to interact with those folks and hear what they're wanting to have us do here on the show. Kajoma even had Kajoma's Card Game Corner for a bit. That was a fun little segment that we did on, what was it? It was like on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. Yep. Before that, we had Tall Tales of JJ.
Tall Tales with JJ.
Rest in peace.
Yep.
That one came and went. I was gonna say
in a fiery blaze.
What's the opposite of too soon? Not soon enough. We probably did too many episodes of that, honestly. I guess every time I just assumed, oh, it'll get better. Because we would talk to JJ, we would talk to him, be like, next time it'll be okay, and then it would get worse. Like we'd talk to him, and be like, all right, next time will be good. And then finally, there was an episode that was so outrageous, we got DMs from so many people. I think you DM'd me. You were one of the first ones, and then three other listeners were like, hey, maybe we need to put this one to bed. No, it was no fault of Kajoma. He had every good intention with it. It was all the twisted and demented mind of JJ that just ruined it. Oh man, but yeah, here we are. It was a good time still. So if you want to pitch us a segment that might get canceled in 4 episodes, go ahead and support us at $15 a month. We would absolutely love the support and love the laughs, being able to look back now and laugh at how ridiculous that was. Oh man, good times. You can also support us over at sgbstore.com. Buy some sweet merch. We got hoodies, t-shirts, swim shorts. That's right. I know it's barely spring here, but our summer Gamer Boys collection is still going strong. At this point, I'm thinking, why not just keep it going? So that way you guys can have your summer merch for next year. I don't have to design anything for the new year because you can just have that. But go check that out, sgbstore.com. We got cups and mugs and stickers and all sorts of fun stuff that helps support the show over there. And you can support us by subscribing on Twitch. If you're watching here live on twitch.tv/the Super Gamer Boys, which you probably aren't because my live stream went down again. My ding dang internet won't stay up. It stays up. My Discord call is fine. It's just the stream. OBS doesn't like my internet. When the internet goes down, OBS is like, screw you, I'm not reconnecting. So for those of you who wonder what happens to our streams, that's what the deal is. But Adrian's still streaming there in the alternate weeks when we're not doing the show here. He is playing games over at twitch.tv/the Super Gamer Boys, and you should drop a sub over there for him. And it gets you ad-free viewing and access to our emotes, as well as helps support the channel so we can keep making cool stuff for you folks. And you have I guess I should get to the main point here. Prime Gaming sub costs you $0. It's free. If you have Amazon Prime, link it to your Twitch account, use that free Prime Gaming sub over on the channel, and you can get all those perks for free and still throw some cash our way. Some Jeff Bezos's cash, he doesn't need it. And with that, it's now time to go back to the show. All right, it's that time of the show. It's now time for me to ask you the most important question. You've probably been asked this year, honestly. What you playing?
What have I been playing? I have been playing, basically. Okay, I've been playing more games than this, but basically 2 games recently.
Okay,
and that has been Balatro and Marvel Rivals. Balatro, it's still incredible.
It's very good.
Every single time I think about Balatro, I am delighted to live in a world where Balatro exists.
I recently jumped into it maybe like a week or 2 ago because I got free trial for Apple Arcade because I bought, a couple months ago. When was that? Back in January, February, I bought an iPad, new iPad, and it came with like a trial for Apple Arcade. And I didn't realize Balatro was on Apple Arcade. So I downloaded it. I'm like, oh, this is so sick. Like, it's so beautiful. It's so fun. Like, I already have it on my Steam Deck, but just one more place, and on my phone too. Like, I can literally just play it sitting on the toilet. It's great. Yeah. It's incredible. I love that game a whole lot. I have, I've been playing it a lot. It's like a game that I just keep coming back to and just keep doing a run every once in a while. I had, last week I had, I think my craziest run yet, where I was scoring, I think the number was 5.3 to the power of 59. What in the world?
And that was insane.
That's crazy
and fantastic. But yeah, I love Balatro. It is incredible. It's so good. I've been trying to unlock everything in the game. I am missing currently just one item. Now I've unlocked everything in the game, and then there's a bunch more to do to fully get to 100%. But I think Balatro is I don't know if I've ever 100%ed a game before, but I feel like Balatro is the one game that it's not a if I 100% this game, it's a when I 100% this game.
Okay. Dang. It's awesome.
It is so good. Every time I play it, I'm just this rocks so much. But yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, then, I love that game so much. I wish I could have put more time into it. Because it's one of those things where the gameplay loop is so addicting. I immediately was oh, Yes, 100%. Like, I think I remember when I first played it, I talked about on the show, I was like, I was up until like 2 a.m. playing this game that first night. I couldn't stop. And I didn't even realize how much time had gone by. It's just get so engrossed in it. So good. But alas, just like every other game I play, something else came out and I'm like, oh, I got to play that, talk about it on the show. And then I never go back to it. But I mean, I like I said, I have a couple times briefly just on like the iPad and phone and stuff like that. Yeah. But I still have not even finished, because technically you quote unquote finish the game if you can get to the 7th ante, is that what it's called or whatever? Or the 7th
ante 8. Yeah, there's a final boss on ante 8. Yeah,
and so like I still haven't done a run like that, and I want to so bad because I'm like I've gotten close. I've gotten so close, and then died right before. I'm like I need to do that at least once, just so I can say I've beat the game. Roll credits on it. But man, either way, it's just a fun one to be able to just jump in willy-nilly. I think that's what I love about it too. It's so easy, just like okay, I'm gonna play around real quick. All right, I'm out. I'm done. Yeah, like so great.
It's good. Yeah. And then the other game that I've been playing a lot of is Marvel Rivals. I've been playing it. I went in like a 2-week span where I played it every night for a couple hours with my friends. And then we've kind of switched to, it's been more like every other night that we've been playing it recently. But that game is very fun. I have been playing it a lot. I think it's great. If you've ever played like Overwatch or anything like that, it's kind of in that similar vein.
Okay.
And it is fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't touched Marvel Rivals, and other than you, I don't think I know anyone else who's even played it. Like, I don't think Adrian's played it. At least if he has, he hasn't mentioned it. So, the gameplay is pretty much Overwatch, right? But just with Marvel superheroes, correct?
It's very similar. There's definitely like variation to that, but it is like very much in that genre of like a hero shooter, objective-based hero shooter with 6v6 and Marvel characters. But it's great. It has we're now in season 1.5 and we have 37 characters on the roster.
Wow.
Which is more than Overwatch.
That's crazy.
Too, which is insane. And they're all pretty unique and they all have cool abilities. It's just a blast. There's so many characters that you can like try and play, and it's great. I love it. It's a fun time.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah. I mean, it's free to play, right?
It is.
Okay.
It is free to play, and all the characters, they announced, this is before this game came out, but all characters are, all future and present characters are free. Like the only thing that you buy in that game is cosmetics.
Okay. That's super cool. Yeah. Cause like,
it's sick.
Yeah, a lot of free to play games aren't like that. Like I think of even like League of Legends. I mean, League of Legends has like 100 and something characters now. It's like insane, but like you have to unlock them either you can get them free by grinding for hundreds of hours to get enough RP to get a character, or you just pay money for it. So to know like, okay, there's already so many characters and they're free, and all the future ones, like that's awesome. That's actually really cool.
They're also all unlocked. Like you don't have to do anything to grind or like anything to get the characters. You just have them. You can play any character that is in the game.
Dang. That's legit.
Sick.
That's super cool. Yeah. One of these days, I mean, since it's free to play, I need to download it and just try it. But I don't know. I just
you'd be welcome to join us.
It's just scary.
If you'd like to play with my friends, they are
multiplayer games are just scary to me because I'm so bad at them.
Fair.
That's fair. But maybe I need to get out there and, stretch my multiplayer online gaming legs, spend too long. I'll get too rusty. I'm already bad, but by not playing, I'm only getting worse, right? So I need to play to at least maintain a certain level of of dignity.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, anything else you've been playing, or is that pretty much rounded out?
That's basically it. I put Sifu on here. I played like the first hour and a half of that game.
That game is so fun.
because it was free on Epic, but I haven't gotten very far into it, so I don't feel like I can super talk about it. But the secret level, that like Amazon Prime show that came out, the Sifu episode, is I think one of my favorite episodes in that. And I was like, this is so cool. I want to play this game so bad. So I'm looking forward to playing more of it in the future.
Have you gotten to the nightclub yet?
No, I think I'm at the I don't think I've made it into the warehouse yet. So I think I'm still on the first mission, basically.
Okay. Yeah, nightclub's pretty early. I think it's only second, maybe third. So,
that makes sense, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that whole thing is that whole game is so incredible because it's basically just John Wick, the video game kind of thing. I don't know. I love how it's all so fluid and so intuitive. Just I don't know. It's just acting out all of your wildest. I don't know. I just imagine as a kid. I don't have to imagine it. When I was a kid, we would. That was basically how we played. As when we played, growing up watching all these crazy action movies or whatever, cartoons and all this stuff. We would act scenes like this out, in pretending to be in slow motion, punching someone in the face or chucking something across the yard or a stick at someone, and just So to basically have our childhood game, the video game, this is awesome. The slow motion and crazy abilities and chucking stuff across the room, beating people over the head with a chair or whatever, all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm I love it. I love it so much. It's such a fantastic game, and the art style is cool. I love the art style.
So cool. It's so cool.
And especially when you get in the nightclub with the neon lights and stuff, I'm ooh, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah.
Very, very good game. That's another one that I put quite a few hours into and then never got to finish. But it's also extremely difficult though. It's hard. So hard.
I was doing the tutorial combos, and they were do the sweep the leg, and I just you're supposed to go up and then down and then Y. All right, because I was playing on an Xbox controller, and I was I can't. It took me so long, and I'm I don't know if I quite have this down that I can execute this in a actual in the situation
in the middle of an actual fight to pull that out. Yeah, exactly. Well, for myself, I have not played any video games that I can think of other than, I said, a random round of Balacho here and there. Oh, I played through Untitled Goose Game, but I talked about that a couple weeks ago. And we're actually going to be, I'm going to be joining my friends on a co-op episode this week, recording that. I'll probably be out soon. So by the time you listen to this, it will definitely, I think we're recording Wednesday, so it'll probably be coming out at the end of this week or beginning of next week. So look forward to over on Super MPC Radio, our friends over there, co-op episode talking about Untitled Goose Game. But as far as board games, I do want to talk about, I think I've talked about it before, but I got to play more of it and with more people. So I'd kickstarted a few years ago the Last of Us board game.
Okay.
And I played it when I first got it a month or two ago. I played it just with one other person, and it was fun. It was hard. It was very difficult, but very fun. It was just a 2-player game, but it's meant to be played with up to 5 players. Well, we got to play with 5 players just on this last Friday. It was my buddy's birthday, and for his birthday, he literally asked, I want to play this game for my birthday. I'm all right, cool. I'll bring it over. I'm down with that. And man, that game was such a blast with more players. It's definitely makes it more difficult. We ended up losing because it's a co-op game. You're all working together, and if one person dies, game over. You're dead. You start over.
Really?
So no one can die. Everyone has to survive. So we were literally on the final boss battle and lost a guy. Well, what ended up happening is everyone died except for me and my buddy whose birthday it was. It was just us two. So out of the 5, only 2 of us survived. We kind of were we technically lost. Let's play it out and see what happens. But we were dropping like flies on the final boss battle. But what's cool, so I don't know how much I've actually explained on the show before, but there's basically a calendar. So it starts on day 1, and then it goes up to 16 days. So essentially it's how many turns or rounds you get through the game. So like every time you finish like a turn, or a day, you go to the next day on the tracker, and you're trying to get from the FEMA, like whatever, the starting quarantine zone, and get to Jackson, which is just like the first video game. You're trying to get to Jackson, and you get to go through different areas like the sewers and the university and Lakeside and like downtown, or not downtown, like the suburbs and stuff like that. So it's really cool. And there's like these chapter cards for each area that you go through. And there's actually like obviously pulls from encounters from the video game, has a sick art on it. And then like a little like story you kind of read, like just like a little short paragraph, and then like an encounter. And sometimes the encounter is just like roll a dice and see if you pass or fail, or sometimes it's combat. You actually have to fight something like a swarm of clickers or whatever it is. And so I don't know, it's just so fun. It's extremely difficult. The way it works is like combat is using these dice. There's like 3 attributes to each character. So I forget the exact words they use. I remember. Okay, so it's might, which is basically kind of like strength. Okay. So there's characters with like might, characters that are more cunning, and then characters that are have more wisdom. And so like each character has those 3 attributes, but just in varying levels, varying degrees, and it determines each character has their own attack dice or ability dice that they use for doing attack rolls and ability rolls. So like there's a dice just for Joel, a dice just for Ellie, a dice just for Bill, for all Tommy, all the different characters, and the dice reflects what your stats are. So if you have like really high might and really high cunning, well, you're going to have more of those symbols on the dice than you're going to have wisdom, obviously, because that's your lowest stat. You might not have wisdom on there at all, And so, yeah, it's having like a full team of 5 people in some instances made it so much easier because there's a wider range of skill sets. You'd be like, you do it. Oh, I'm going to do it this time. I can take care of it. Or someone else can. But then in combat, that also determines how many dice get rolled for the enemy. Because basically their health bar is a bunch of dice that have those symbols on it. And so in order to attack them, you roll your dice. So, all right, they have like 12 dice and like 8 of them are cunnings, like the symbol for cunning. In order to when you're fighting him, whether you're using melee or a firearm or something like that, you're rolling and trying to roll the matching symbol to take out that chunk of the health bar, essentially. And but again, like I said, with more characters, more like actual player characters, the health bar gets significantly bigger. It's like insane, like the scale. It goes from because it's just like, roll 2 random dice times how many players you have playing. So it's like, so on the final boss battle, like there was probably like 20 dice or something insane. I don't remember. It was absolutely crazy. And we had some penalties too. We had accrued through the campaign where it kind of added more, but yeah, I don't know. It's a really cool concept. Apparently it's a game, a type of game, like system that's used in other games. Like I think they have other games. They have like a dark fantasy one and then like a dark sci-fi one that both look sick. So it's a similar mechanics and stuff, but just in different like themes, essentially. Like this one's skinned with Last of Us, but honestly, like the dark fantasy one, like the art and everything looks so sick. I'm like, I might need to look into picking that up too, just to have like a little more flavor on this. This game system I like a lot. To see it used in different ways would be kind of sweet, but I don't remember the name of the game system off the top of my head. But yeah, it was a fun one. I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to playing that more, and I'm hoping one day I can play through my Metal Gear Solid board game too and report back on that one to you guys, but haven't had a chance to open that up yet. All right. Well, that's all I got for the show this week. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are all fantastic. Whether you're watching live on Monday nights when we record over on YouTube and Twitch, or watching later on youtube.com/supergamerboys, or listening later on podcast apps, on whatever your favorite podcast launcher is, we're pretty much there as far as I know. And if we're not, let me know, because I'll figure out how to get us there. If you love what we do, just listening and watching is plenty, honestly. Like we so appreciate even that much. But for those of you who love what we do even more, you can go to patreon.com/supergamerboys and support us over there. You guys are incredible people who go above and beyond and support us financially. We appreciate it. Kajoma, you're one of them. We honestly, there's so much we wouldn't be able to do without that help. That helps support buying equipment, whether it's mics, lights, cameras, to keeping computers running smoothly, to also buying actual games that we can talk about here on the show. So we thank you so much. And think about supporting us over there if you have a couple dollars to toss our way. sgbstore.com. You can also support us there. Buy some sweet merch. Like I said before, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, mugs, cups, swim shorts, whatever you're looking for. We got some stuff over there for you. Rate and review us where you can, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I don't know if any place else does reviews, but those are the two big ones. That'd be extremely helpful if you could review us there. Shout out once again to Jack, Sriracha, Yate, and DJ Trooz for allowing us to use their music on our show. You can find them on Apple Music and Spotify. Links will be in the show description for them. Remember, this week we listened to Jack, Sriracha, and Yate. Go check them out. During the week, you can find us over at supergamerboys.com, Twitter and Instagram at supergamerboys. I am on Twitter and Instagram at gmorlang. Kajoma, where can the people find you at?
Yeah, you can find me over at Twitch at twitch.tv/Kajoma01. I am also on Instagram at Kajoma1Gaming, and on Blue Sky at, I think it's Kajoma1.bluesky social, something like that. Whatever the generic tag is over there. And I technically have a Twitter, but I have not used it in a long time. Yeah. So, all right. Check those places.
Yeah, go check them out for sure. And the links will be in the description as well, as with all of our other guests. So, thank you so much, Caleb, for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Taking the time out of your day to come chat video games with me. I appreciate having you around, and also as a Patreon producer. Thanks so much for supporting us over the years. And with that, thank you guys again one last time, watching, listening, supporting. You guys are the bomb. And with that, I guess I'll catch you all on the flippity flop. You know what I forgot to say? We're the Super Gamer Boys. Shoot. You know what? This is why we need Adrian. We need Adrian back.
True.
Now. Where is he?
He needs to come back.